thank you for your kindness and for cheering me on and everything. And hopefully the sound is not horrific and everything's working. And the tablet decided it wouldn't let me use the keyboard. So this has been a little bit more chaotic than I was hoping for. But hello, everyone. I only have tea. I don't have anything stronger than tea. I only have tea. But I'm back. Yes, I'm back. I cannot type anything. Everything is absolutely so messy. Thank you for your patience. What a night of adventures, a night of all the things. So thank you, everyone, for being patient. The Grand Arbiter accidentally, when he was exiting the stream, he accidentally also ended the stream at the same time. So here we are. But we're here. We're here. And I'm so happy to be back. So thank you very much. Right. I cannot remember where we were because it's been a mad frenzy to get us back and sorted. Anyway, I think I was talking about the bustle cage, the fabric for the bustle. Thank you, Phyllis. Oh my gosh. How many times can I have a little meltdown tonight during the stream? Who knows? I guess we'll find out. More than usual. So I was showing you spooky fabric. I was talking about the bustle cage. So this is the pattern I use, generally speaking, for my lobster tail bustle. I love a lobster tail bustle. I've made this so many times, just a countless number of times. And so I don't even usually read the instructions anymore. This time I'm hoping to make it a little bit more emphatic, a little bit larger than my last iteration. So the last one I made was the rainbow bustle cage, which is so beautiful and I love it so much. But it shrank on me. I had pre-washed all the fabric before I stitched it, and I'd pre-washed it, I thought, in quite hot fabric. And so I thought it was all good. And Monsieur Gatto, not so helpfully, had a moment of illness all across the bustle cage, which, because I'd pre-washed it and because the bustle wires are designed so you can take them out, so you can launder the garment, which is really nice. It's fine, I'll launder it. I don't love that Monsieur Gatto had a moment of illness on a garment, but also this is part of having cats. Sometimes things happen. And so when I washed it, it turns out that my recollection of pre-shrinking all of the fabric must have been incorrect, or I had not shrunk it enough. So it all shrank after I made it, which makes that bustle cage much smaller. And you're all right, Grand Arbiter. Thank you. I'm sorry I can't reply to you. The tablet is not currently letting me type on it, so I could not reply to you. And so here we are. So I'm having a lot of challenges tonight, but we're limping along. We're managing. We're muddling through. It's very messy. Everyone's very kind. So anyway, so this is absolutely my very most favorite bustle cage pattern. It's not the only one out there. There are some other options. There's one by Laughing Moon Mercantile that's got quite a few different shapes of bustles, which is really nice to have some variety. I encourage everyone to find the style that they like. I suspect very much that historically people wore what they liked, just as we do today. Some of us like a balconette, some of us like a full cut brassiere, some of us like you know, shorts, some of us like briefs. All of the underpinnings are about what is comfortable, what you like, what supports your garments. It's the same with corsetry and petticoats, chemise, bustle cages, all of those things. It's about what works for you. And Budgie, Ty, it's so good to see you. I hope you are feeling better. Thank you for joining for a bit. Get some good sleep. And I shall talk to you later, my friend. Good night. So anyway, yeah, I think finding the ones that work best for you is always the most important thing. These are the patterns I like, and I certainly have reasons for why I like them and why I recommend them. And in many cases, those reasons are based out of like field testing, if you will. Like I've worn them into conventions, I've worn them for like 12, in some cases, I've had days that went like 18 to 20 hours in which I was in costume for like 6 a.m. until 2 a.m. And so, yeah, that's 20 hours. Those are days I don't recommend. But I've done that in full Victorian time traveling kit, bustle, corset, petticoats, all the things. And so for me, there's a huge portion of my decisions that is about comfort. It's about how they pack and wear long term. And so that has a lot to do with my decision making. I like this particular bustle cage because it's not only comfortable, it not only supports the shape of my skirts really well, but it also packs very flat, which is wonderful. It's certainly not the only option out there, though. I think I linked to the Black Snails underpinnings packet on the Patreon post, and they have a sort of stuffed pillow, really interesting shaped bustle. It looks amazing. I'm like visually really stunning. I'm so interested in this, but also I look at it, I'm like, that's not going to pack very well. It looks amazing, absolutely fascinating structure. I think it would be really great for creating some of that bustle silhouette, but it's like putting half a pillow in your luggage, and so that would not work for me at all. Anyway, so that those are my main patterns. I also, when we were talking about the split drawers, I focused on the drawers portion, but I also really love this particular chemise. It's so nice. It has buttons at the shoulders and a drawstring through the neck, which means that you can loosen your neck if you need a deeper neck. You can draw it up if you need it to be a little bit more snug. But also, this is a 19th century trick. This is what we did. When you have something that is strapless or has wider shoulders, once you've got your corset and everything in place, you undo the buttons at the shoulders and you tuck your straps into the top of your corset. And now you've got a strapless chemise situation to go with your corset. It works a treat. I love this so much. I just don't make any other style of chemise at this point because I find this one so versatile and so comfortable. I do make some alterations in the body of the chemise for my own personal comfort. I'll talk about those when I get into the construction of this garment. I have to find chemise fabric right now. So one of the things when I'm making a chemise, I tend to like a slightly lighter weight cotton. So I don't want to use the cotton that is as stiff and as have as much body as like the cotton I use for the petticoat or the bustle cage. Like for those, I want that quilting weight cotton. For the chemise, I almost want cotton voile, although I usually step it up a step or two up from cotton voile because that's rather sheer, and usually I want something a bit opaque so that I'm not scandalizing anyone too much. All my bits are covered, very important. But I want something almost that delicate and soft, because I I don't want it to be so bulky under the corset, and I want it to be able to wick away my perspiration. I want it to protect the corset from my perspiration, but I don't want it to be super bulky. So I'm always looking for a slightly softer, slightly lighter weight cotton. You can also do all of these things out of linen. Linen is a wonderful option. It's just that it tends to be a bit more expensive. So I tend to lean into the cotton fabrics, but linen is very traditional. So if you are wanting to do something super historical, linen is a great choice for your chemise, even for your petticoats, for your split drawers. Linen is fantastic. You can also use wool, a very lightweight wool. I'm allergic to lanolin, so wool is not usually a great option for me, but wool can be wonderfully wicking. And if you get something fairly lightweight, like a tropical weight wool, it's lovely. It's wonderful at helping to regulate body temperature and things like that. But it's also probably one of the spendiest options there, because a tropical weight wool is hard to come by. And Bess suggests for the cotton, for the chemise lawn. Yes, a cotton lawn would be so perfect for the chemise. Just you want something delicate, light, probably not, you don't want like organdy. You don't want something so delicate. I wouldn't use lace, for instance, but you want something fairly lightweight, because it's going to get really squished under that corset. And the bulkier the fabric is, the bulkier it feels under your corset, and the less comfortable it is to wear. So I like to do something like lightweight but sturdy. So lawn is a great option. Also, some of the like shirting weight cottons, like the Madras cottons, can be really nice because they're on the lighter end. They're almost lawn, but not quite. So you wouldn't want to use, I wouldn't use like Oxford cloth or anything like that. No twills. So Ooh. Oh my gosh. Archer Peacock says she found a mid-weight cotton voile online, I think at fabrics.com. Oh my gosh. It was like $6 a yard and pretty wide, although a few years ago. That's a great price though. $6 a yard. That's really nice. Mm. I love voile. This dress I'm wearing, for instance, is made out of a cotton voile, and it's actually 2 layers of cotton voile, so that's why it's fairly opaque, but it's also extremely comfortable. And I wear my cotton voile here in the desert, oh, like 8 to 9 months out of the year because it's so hot. So I love that cotton voile. So those are the fabrics I have so far. I've got all of my patterns together because these are all things I've made many times. We were talking about this a bit. We did a catch up with my wonderful Westkit coterie from the last workshop I taught. We were catching up about their projects, and I shared that I'm going to be making a new corset for myself using exactly the same pattern I did for the fire corset, because it is extremely comfortable. I'm extremely happy with that pattern. I don't really have anything I want to adjust on it at all. I just love it, which is such a great place to be in, and it's very comfortable to wear. It's a good wearing corset. But I'm thinking about doing a sort of like botanical situation, to go with this whole like spooky arcane tea society underpinning set I'm creating. I may decide to go with like a black and green vibe. I'm talked about doing potentially a ombre dyeing on the fabric, which is a little bit of a crazy idea. I don't know if I will go with that for sure, but I have recently become obsessed with ombre dyeing, so I'm considering it. So I'm kicking around some ideas for the corset. It will almost certainly be another bobinette corset because they're so lightweight and so comfortable, and they're cooler than a fully couture corset. Now, the challenge with the bobinette corset is that couture is a sturdier fabric than bobinette, and so the bobinette will potentially wear out faster than the couture. The other challenge is you have to be careful not to catch your bobinette on anything, like, say, a cat who likes to sleep on your corset and wants to nom it. You have to be really careful with cats who are named Monsieur Gâteau, who want to bite your corset. Ask me how I know. So there's some like challenges there. And Arjun Peacock shared the link. It was for the cotton voile. It was at Fabric Warehouse from fabrichwholesaledirect.com. Wonderful. The link is in the comments on Twitch. I'm currently absolutely terrified of touching the screen lest I do anything. So, but I will try and grab that link later to share for those of you who are not on Twitch. So, anyway, those are the fabrics I'm thinking of. Those are the patterns, at least for my things that I will be working on. For the Grand Arbiter, there is only one pattern for men's underpants for the 19th century that I have ever found. And it is a messy girl of a pattern. It's a very challenging pattern. I've had to adjust it so many times in so many ways to try and get it to trying to get it to the right fit. Also, hello and welcome. We have a new friend joining us, whom I had the pleasure of meeting at Worldcon. This was a wonderfully temporal appropriate greeting. I'm so happy you're here. Let me just do the thing where I show the comments again, maybe. We'll see if it works. But hello, Zarad. It's wonderful to see you. Thank you for joining. I've had kind of a crazy night tonight with the show, lots of technical challenges. So everyone has been very patient, and I really thank you so much. And if I seem more scattered than usual, I am. That many technical challenges always gets me sort of out of kilter, as it were. But we are talking about underpinnings mostly. I'm probably going to do a bit of stitching on a hat frame as well. So fun. But I'm starting a huge project of creating a bunch of new underpinnings. Oh my gosh. Zarad was one of the stage ninjas at Masquerade, and once was one time too many is your mother's costume. All right, listen, I have to take a moment. This costume was so wonderful. So there's this internet meme of this enraged older woman who's ready to go to battle, right? Because someone's used her fabric shears to cut cardboard or something like that, but not fabric. And so she's decked out with like a rolling pin and giant, thread cutter and like a pot lid as a shield and all these things. It's just a great meme. And Zarad's mum did this costume as her Worldcon Masquerade entry. And it was absolutely brilliant. All of the details were so good. Every little thing was just a chef's kiss. And it was also so funny and so well presented. And I was just absolutely charmed by the costume. And we were in the same little grouping together. So one of the fantastic things about the Worldcon Masquerade that I really appreciated is they broke all of the entries into these little groupings, our little pods. And so we had a person who wrangled us, our sort of den uh, parent, if you will. And so our den parent made sure we got to the stage at the right time and went in the right direction, and that we were, on schedule and all of these things. And so Zered's mum was in my pod. And so we got to chat a bit, and then we were in sort of the same grouping of people who went on the stage, in order, not at the same time. So that was lovely. And just again, her costume was stunning, so stunning. So Zered, it's wonderful to see you. Thanks so much for joining tonight. Tuesdays are always a little bit chaotic. They're exceptionally chaotic tonight because everything's gone a bit awry. But I'm so happy to be here and to have you join us. So anyway, I think I was talking about the Grand Arbiter's drawers that I make for him. This is from a company called Past Patterns. If you know them or like them, I apologize. I don't normally criticize things too much online because I think the world is full of sufficient criticism. In fact, probably too much. It's probably gone too far in some directions. There's a lot of rage bait and nitpicking and things for stuff that isn't just not that critical. So, and then the real criticism gets lost in the wash, in my opinion. So, but I'm going to make real criticism, in my opinion, and that is that this pattern does not quite sew up as one expects. Things do not quite line up as one might expect. And so I think that the pattern pieces are not quite drafted exactly right. Oh, gosh. Argent Peacock says the newer versions of past patterns are better. At least the pieces are labeled better. That's wonderful. So I'm not the only person who's had challenges with past patterns. So I'd say this is it. This is the one option that is out there. But so caveat, but the good news is that maybe the newer version has better labeling, and maybe the pattern pieces have been adjusted to stitch up better, because this was originally produced in 1987, updated in 2009. It's a fairly old pattern, to be honest. So I hope for some changes in the latest iteration, but this is it. I haven't found another option, another version of this. And that's partly because gentlemen didn't wear underpants in the same way that they do today. So if your trousers were lined and you were wearing a very long shirt, you would sort of tuck the shirt in to cover the bits, as it were, and so you might not have anything else going on underneath your trousers, depending. But if you didn't have lined trousers, then you probably need a sort of lining. So these are shaped mostly as trousers to go under trousers, and you can see the original is like full length to the ankle. I do not make the Grand Arbiters ankle length. I make them sort of knee length for him. He doesn't need the full ankle coverage, and it's a little sassier when it's knee length. That's totally ahistorical, though. Archie Peacock says, does Pinsent Tailoring also sell patterns? She would also totally trust those. I don't think that Mr. Pinsent sells patterns. I know he does bespoke tailoring for people. I know he does custom pieces, but I haven't seen any patterns from him. I too would be very keen to try out his patterns, but it may be the case that because of the mode of sewing he does. Patterns are not really something in his wheelhouse. I don't know, honestly. I don't know how he approaches things. He might drape everything. I don't know. But that'd be so lovely. And even though it is rather earlier, as he does a lot of kind of Georgian things, Regency things. It is earlier than the Victoriana I tend to go with. For me, I totally use Georgian and Regency looks for the Grand Arbiter on the regular. He's often quite ahistorical. I like throw things together in a sort of melange of vibes for the Grand Arbiter. So something like that would really work. But no, I haven't seen anything from him. So, I mean, we should all put a bird in his ear, I suppose. Anyway, all right, let's talk about the chapeau. So, this is what's called the tip of the crown. And it's also got 2 pieces of buckram here, making everything out of a double layer of buckram for this particular project. This is the brim. You can see I've not cut out the center of the brim yet. So normally what happens is I trace out the whole thing. Sometimes I cut the brim center opening pretty early, and then I cut the tip out of that fabric. This sort of saves me on some buckram. So that's a very typical thing for me. This time I'm still in this phase of like trying out some different stitching and construction techniques, just to sort of challenge myself, but also challenge my conceptions and see if other ways of doing things are better. I think sometimes you just need to experiment a little bit. So one of the instructions I got was to leave this intact, to wire the inner circle first and then cut out the center bit. We'll see if that makes any sort of real difference in the construction, or if it's just a little bit like I missed an opportunity to use this bit of fabric to cut out the tip of my hat. So when I do go in and trim this, though, I will be giving myself a seam allowance. Usually I do like a 1/2 inch to 3/4 of an inch to create these little tabs. I tend to err on the side of more when it comes to these inner tabs. So I'm going to lean closer to 3/4 of an inch than a 1/2 inch when I go in and trim it. And, you know, I'm working on this hat mostly by hand, partly because I started it off demoing it at Tucson Comic Con. So I didn't have a sewing machine with me. All I had was my hands and my kit. And like, that's very normal for me to do portions of the hat by hand and also portions by machine. So in this case, I'm just going to keep on with the hand stitching because we're right here. I do use my wonderful little needle nose pliers quite a bit for this. I also use the needle pusher puller. I think I've demonstrated this before. I'm obsessed with this little tool, in part because, okay, we've got this white button here. Watch this part. When I push the white button, I have a little sort of clamp here, so I can clamp onto the needle to pull it, which is very handy. It can clamp better than the pliers, although the pliers are really quite good. It also has this little plate here that you can use to push the needle through really thick layers or heavy duty layers. It has a thread cutter. It's a wonderful little tool. So I love this tool. You can get them on Wowak. And of course, you must have a thimble. I am still looking for a replacement thimble. My thimble broke, so I'm using this adjustable style thimble, which is totally functional. It's a good thimble, but it doesn't always protect the entirety of my fingertip. Sometimes I want a little bit more protection, especially when I'm pushing on something quite thick, because if the needle sort of slips, it will potentially bury itself into the tip of my finger, which is very uncomfortable. Ah, Arjun Peacock says, sorry, I need to sign off. The cats have decided it's race time. It was wonderful to see you, my friend. Good luck with the kitties. All right. So, and the other thing I find very essential for this process is thread lubricant. So you can use beeswax, or you can use one of these silicone-based thread lubricants, or thread conditioner, as they're called. This one is called Thread Heaven. Thread Heaven isn't made anymore. The company went out of business because the owner decided to retire, honestly. So it's not like a sad story, except for sewers. It's kind of sad for us. There's another company that makes something quite similar called Thread Magic. So, but it's just a little silicone in a box. Well, it's like silicone and stuff. And you just use it to stick your thread so that it's going to go through the fibers more smoothly and also tangle less. So this, especially when I'm doing a bunch of hat making, is always out on my work table. And then I need thread. So often I use white thread because I'm using white buckram. Sometimes I use whatever thread is just kicking around. The thread's going to get covered. No one's going to see the thread. I'm not going to make a hat out of sheer material. So what I'm going to be doing today is actually quickly basting my layers together so that I don't have the same problem as I did previously with the other layer of the hat. And I want a nice millinery needle. Here we go. So your millinery needles are usually longer, a little bit hardier, a little bit thicker than your standard needles. And of course, my millinery needles have disappeared from my kit, which is very surprising. Oh, well, we'll just, I guess I'll have to order more millinery needles. Well, that's very irksome. So, do I have one in my, all right, good. So, fortunately, I have one in my pincushion. So, millinery needle is usually a little bit longer, it's a little bit heftier, and often it has a slightly bigger eye because you may need thicker thread to go through your many layers of buckram and what have you. So when I'm doing this, I usually also lubricate the needle a bit, just to also add to the ease. Now I'm just using some bog standard all-purpose thread. You can go up, but I don't need it to be thicker right now. What I'm going to do is just go through the layers and baste them together. You can also do this on your sewing machine with a zigzag stitch and just go sort of in a spiral all the way around the brim, several rows of stitching. So you want to get a few rows in there to really hold everything together. You don't want your fabric to shift around on you as you're creating the hat frame. So I'm just running my thread through the thread conditioner, and then I put the tip of the needle through the thread conditioner so everything's nice and, kind of lubricated. Very important. Got to get that thimble on. These are going to be kind of messy stitches. I'm going to start on the inside and work out. So these are just going to be running stitches, although I could do like a little big angle here. I just want to catch both layers, make sure that I'm marrying them together. They're not weight-bearing stitches, they are just basting stitches. I'm just going to do this all the way around. I get my buckram at Judith M. Millinery. They are in Kentucky, land of many hats, and it's a perfect place for them. And they are lovely, wonderful, very helpful people. So I adore that. If you call them up, you have questions, they'll help you. There is a buckram shortage, which I usually find some time to talk about anytime I'm working on hats, because I want everyone to be aware that buckram's a little bit hard to come by. Heavyweight buckram's almost impossible to find these days. They don't make crown weight buckram at all anymore, which was a little bit heavier than heavyweight buckram. It's basically 2 layers of heavyweight buckram stitched together. So I kind of miss that, because that stuff was incredible for making hats like this. They'd be so sturdy. They were not going anywhere. But it's very hard to come by. Mostly vintage. So this stuff is like on the heavier side, but I wanted something a little bit sturdier still, so I've doubled it up, and I'm just going to go around. It's kind of boring, this bit of the process, because nothing's, nothing magical is happening yet. But it's also a great time to chit chat with friends. It's a wonderful time to listen to an audiobook, get ready for book club on Sunday the 21st, to watch your favorite show, what have you. Like, this is a project I like to do when I have something to keep me stimulated and engaged mentally, because it is not particularly exciting sewing. So, but you see, I'm not making these like super small stitches. They're just placeholders. I do often, usually, do this portion on my sewing machine. I love to just zigzag around. I'll probably show off some of that at a later date. I didn't want to switch locations. We'd already had too many technical difficulties tonight to get into switching locations. So thank you all. What a night. So yes, so this, you can see it goes pretty fast though. And I'm even like, I'm holding this in such a wild way, because normally I would not have it up like this. I would have it probably down on the table a little bit lower. But I kind of want you to see what I'm doing. So you can see there's a whole little motion here where I use the thimble to push that needle through. saves my fingers. And it also prevents injury, because it is easy to stab yourself when you're doing hand sewing on thick things like this. So you want to do your utmost to preserve your hands. And I talk about this a lot in corset making and hat making, because both of these are styles of sewing that can be quite hard on the hands, hat making in particular. And so you want to make good ergonomic choices. You want to make certain that you're using tools that really help you out. Once I get done with this row of stitching, check the length of my thread. If I don't have very much, I probably just knot off. If I have enough, I'll go for another round, as it were. In this case, I don't have very much. I'm just giving myself a little knot. This is where I find sometimes this is a bit of an irksome style, because it can catch the thread on the thimble. So this is why I sometimes prefer the smooth-sided thimble, because it doesn't catch my thread. All right, so now that I've knotted off, I start again, another row of sewing around this hat. Hat making is like this, though. It's a lot of repetitive sewing. One of the wonderful things about that, though, is if you don't have a lot of practice hand sewing, if you're worried about your hand sewing on your hat, it gives you a lot of opportunity to practice and get better at hand stitching. That said, if you're someone who needs to take care of your hands, sort of pace yourself on the hand sewing, using the sewing machine as much as possible is really the better part of valor. One of the things I learned with the dragon hat is there are also places in which you can use a stapler, and that was such a revelation. I'd never done that before in a hat, and you cannot tell that there are staples on the inside of that hat frame at any point. It's so covered by the mulling and everything that the staples are completely hidden. But they did really make like closing up the back seams so quick, because it was just like, oh, I stapled it. So I do tell my hat making students on the regular that I look at the early inner layers of hand sewing as my practice rounds, and my goal is always to make the sewing look better and better with every layer of the hat, because by the time I get to the outside of the hat, I want my sewing to be almost invisible, practically invisible, if you will. And so that is always the goal. But for these inner layers, when no one's ever going to see them, the idea is simply rough and ready to get it done, because it doesn't have to be pretty. It's going to be completely hidden by the time I'm done. So, right, I usually do my thread about arm length. I do a double thread for this sort of thing, because I want that a little bit extra strength that comes from a double thread. And I'm just going to skip like out probably ½ inch or so, and just go for another row of stitching around, although my knot was not thick enough. Let's do this again. Right. I'm just gonna, as you can see, I go up just a little bit. And I'm going to repeat that process, going around in the circle. Only this time I'm going to catch on everything. There we go. If you do cross stitch or any kind of embroidery where you work on Aida cloth or plastic, canvas or something like that that has holes in it, this is a very similar type of experience in that it's a very open weave fabric. It's been imbued with some adhesives that make it very stiff, and so it's got a very stiff hand, but still fabric. And so the weave is so loose that if your knot isn't rather hardy, you'll keep going through the fabric. But also, when you're stitching, you're trying to put your needle through one of the holes in the canvas. So you can see I'm just going around a little bit wider circle here. Oops, gave myself a bit of a tangle. See if I can undo that. Come on. No. Ugh. Even sometimes with the thread conditioner, even sometimes with care and practice, you can still get a snarl in your thread. You can get a tangle. You can get a little knot in your thread. It's such a, I find it so irksome. This is a great question. All right, so Ziplo Bob asks, do I have any tips for choosing sizes and fitting a hat? This is perfect. She figures she'll make a mock-up from poster board, but she's not entirely sure where to go from there. All right. Yes, my favorite thing, first of all, is to make the fitting garment, if you will, from poster board, because it's inexpensive and it has some similar vibes to how buckram works. So let me see here. Where is my tape measure? It all depends on where you want your hat to fit. But one of the things I think people often do is they either make their hat too small or too large. And so either it comes too far down on the head and it rests on your ears and it causes your ears to bend a little bit. If it's a ready-made hat, if it's a hat that you purchased and you decorated and you fixed up to look beautiful, if you covered a pre-existing hat with fabric and it's too big like that, you can actually pad out the inside of the hat with a little foam to make it sit more appropriately on your head. So you kind of want your hat, depending on the style. So this is a percher, which means I don't want it to be too far down on my head, but you will always want it to nestle on your head a little bit. So generally, you're taking a measurement that is, you see, not on your ears and around your head. And like, this is a bad measurement because I have my hair pinned up in the back, and so it's going over a much bulkier version of my hair than I would normally have it. So you also want to make sure your hair is like down or in the style that you intend to wear your hat over. So I take a measurement, and so I can use that initial measurement to help me get a sort of rough idea of my hat size. There's also some, more arcane measuring that goes over the top of your head from ear to ear. I don't normally do that. I'm not as familiar with using that method to get my hat size, so I use this kind. And I also use that. So for my percher, I don't want it that far down. I'm going to be up higher, and so I want to measure a little higher and see where I want that hat to perch on my head. So a lot of fascinators that are ready-made kind of float on top of the head instead of perching. They don't have a curved bottom edge. They don't sort of nestle into the hair. And so it can be hard to get them styled nicely with your hair. So you want it to be able to sit on the head, kind of nestle on the head, and be something you could style your hair around, in part because you want to be able to hide any attachment points, and also because you don't want it to look like it's floating, right? So I take a measurement then of where I want it to perch and make sure that it is going to sort of match the opening size. And then you could do a couple of things, right? You can either take the pattern sizes, get the one that's sort of closest to your measurements, and mock that up out of your pasteboard, your cardboard, set it on your head, see how it fits. Usually I only need to do the brim with the brim opening to get a sense of how the brim is going to like sit down on my head. I don't normally need to make the entire hat to get a sense of the sizing. I will sometimes make the entire hat out of the poster board so I get a sense of whether or not I like where it's sitting, whether or not it's too tall or too short, if I want to like tighten it up a little bit or loosen it up a little bit or shrink the height on it, what have you. I think I finally got rid of my last mock-up, but which I shrank down in size and it was still quite large. And so I was like, oh, if I want to do this chapeau, if I want to use this style, I'm going to have to shrink it even more. I'm going to have to like take it down by 50%. I took it down by like 25. It wasn't enough. So if you're doing anything where you're adjusting the size, remember that you're dealing with circles, ovals, three-dimensional shapes. And so it's not linear the way the size adjustments happen. So you really have to mock up carefully, make sure that you're doing your adjustments everywhere. And I tend to be a bit coy about doing too many adjustments to an existing hat pattern. I usually work within the pattern sizes that they offer. But if I am adjusting the pattern more than they have available, if I'm like making it smaller, I look at how they've graded all the pieces and I try and mimic that grading when I go in to do my pattern adjustments. So but the big thing is, I think you want to make certain, check your head size. I don't have the pattern envelope with me, but I believe that she has some information on the envelope for this style that lets you know, like, roughly this head measurement is what you want. And so, see, this is not right, but like this says, my head should be 22 and a half, roughly. It's definitely a little bit bulkier because I have my hair up. So my head is not quite that big. In other words, I need a smaller size usually, but 22 and a half. Some hats are sized by that measurement and some hats are sized by like what that would be divided by pi. So essentially. So they'll be like 7 3/4. Well, that's 7 3/4 times pi gives you your hat measurement. So I can't recall what hers looks like. But the other thing you can do when in doubt, you can walk your tape measure. So I start here at my center line with my tape measure at the 0 point. And I'm just going to go every inch from there and kind of like walk it around the curve. I normally do this when it's flat. So I'll just walk it around and around, and I will check and see if that matches up with my head measurement. You can do this for any sorts of curved seams, by the way. It does work better if you do it when it's flat, rather than held up in the air like this. But for the purposes of being able to demonstrate, 20, and this comes in at 20 and a half here. So since I'm wearing this as a percher, and I know that my head is probably like, that measurement is probably an inch off. Oh my gosh. All right. So Beth says she's going to try the Victorian riding hat from Lynn McMaster's. Great choices. McMaster's is the godmother of hat making in the United States at this point. Certainly historical hat making. Her patterns are stunning. I love them. Her instructions are really good. She does do things somewhat differently than I do, but my last hat I made, I used a lot of her mode of construction, and then I used some things I picked up from Mella, from Atelier Mella, which is another hat making maven, one of the incredible set of people who kept the hat making arts alive and even revitalized them in historical sewing circles. I think we're all indebted to them. So, but Lynn McMaster's, she has incredible patterns. I really love them. And that riding hat is so charming. I love it. So, I don't remember how she has her measurements, but you can sort of walk the inner edge of the hat like that to get you a sense. And then, so that, when I did the inner oval, and it's kind of look, on this hat, it's like an egg-shaped oval, which is good for the shape of my head. You can also, as you get more knowledgeable in your hats, you can start adjusting the shape of that inner opening to better match your head shape too. The really wonderful custom hatters who do like the wool hoods that are shaped on hat blocks, they will sometimes have these devices that allow you to get a perfect shape of the head, so you can really match the hat block to the head. But if I'm coming up here now, and I'm doing it a little higher, where I tend to wear my hat, now we're more into the alignment of what that hat shape is going to fit. So, but it still is nestling down on my head. So again, you want to make sure that it's big enough to nestle on your head, but not so big it falls down on your ears and presses on your ears. It will be uncomfortable to have it sitting on your ears long term. And also, that's not how hats are supposed to sit. So you want to just like make certain it's a little smaller in that case, but not so small that it's just like floating on your head. You know, you want a nestler. I hope that answers your question. I feel like I went in a million different ways with it. But also, look, I haven't had the pleasure of speaking to Lynn McMaster in person. I would love to have that opportunity. She does sometimes come to Costume College and teach hat making. Mela from Atelier Mela also sometimes comes and teaches hat making at Costume College. So it is possible to potentially meet them in person and talk to them about hat making. I just haven't had the chance with Lynn McMaster, but her hats are fantastic. Yes. All right. So this is very important. You do, if you are wearing it over a wig, you do want to take your measurement with the wig in place. Absolutely true. And you also, this is the same. Like if I knew I was going to put the hat on over my hair, styled up like this, and set it over the hair, I would actually want to get that measurement so it could go down over my hair. If I was going to always wear my hair down and very curly and not pinned up, I'd also want to measure it in that position. So the bulk of your hair, the style of your hair can also impact the fit of your hat. So this is less of a concern with people who keep short hair, right? So a lot of gents historically, their haircuts were quite short. So, or quite close to the head, certainly in the 19th century. Now you go back far enough, men are wearing wigs, and so their hats were going to need to go on over the wig. So you always absolutely want to include the wig in your hat measurements. Yes, good questions. I'm so happy you asked about that, Bess, because I don't get into how to size your hat very often. And it's a little tricky. There's a lot of math that goes into hat making, a lot of geometry and actually calculus. I'm very bad at the calculus part of things, but I'm pretty adept with the geometry of it all. So you are dealing with this three-dimensional thing in a way that is a lot more fussy than some of the other garments that I make. So getting the fit is really tricky. Now, a thing I know because I've made this hat, this particular style so often, my head is on the smaller side. So I usually start out there. If you have a hard time finding hats because your head is on either extreme, that will also let you know where to start with your hat pattern. If you usually have no trouble finding a hat, if most things fit you off the rack pretty well, you're probably in a sort of more median size of head. So if you are like struggling to find your hat size, start in the medium range, use the poster board method to cut out the pattern piece, try it on, see how it fits, see how it feels, and then adjust up or down accordingly. And if you adjust the opening of the hat brim in a way that is like not that's sort of off book, is different than what's in the pattern, you absolutely need to mock up the crown portion to make sure that you are doing the right adjustment for the crown as well, because it gets pardon me, a quarter of an inch, an eighth of an inch can have an outsized impact on the fit of your hat. Oh my goodness. I have a frog in my throat. So I think that's a good sign. We've come up, we managed almost to get to our 2 hours tonight. Amazing. Thank you all for, oh my gosh, I'm losing my voice. Thank you all for bearing with me. What a night. We've had an outage. We've had technical difficulties. I accidentally blocked someone and now I'm losing my voice. I would say it's cursed, but it's not, because I've gotten to be here with all of you and have a really wonderful, lively conversation. And it has been delightful tonight. So next Tuesday, I'll probably be into petticoat making. Saturday, if you join me in Discord for our crafternoon, I'll either be working on the hat or the petticoat, depending on my mood and how far I've gotten with things. Maybe I'll be cutting out fabric on Saturday, who knows? But do come join us, come sew along. We love to have chums. Everyone, thank you so much for your support tonight, your encouragement and cheering me on is really so lovely. I am in general quite happy that I can now stream to multiple places, but I would love it if it went a little bit more smoothly. So anyway, good night, my darlings. Good night, Phyllis, Bess, everyone. Thank you so much for staying and cheering me on. I'll see you next time. See you Friday, in fact, for the mystery box sale, which we're doing. I'm packing up more boxes. Not as we speak, but I'm packing up more boxes this week and labeling them. I'm very excited. So, all right, good night, everyone. Please remember to go out into the world, to treasure yourselves as I treasure you. Remember, you are irreplaceable and I adore you. All right, good night, everyone. Cheers. Maybe, if it lets me end the stream. Oh my goodness. What is this?